Hello, good morning everyone, and welcome. Welcome on this warm morning. Thank you very much for taking the time. I hope you're sitting comfortably with a glass of water. So today we're going to, it's the first one in our series today, migration from Microsoft Dynamics. Series 1 is Outgrowing Xero. And this is in partnership with Wilson Partners, who are down the road here in Maidenhead, a popular accountancy firm around the corner. So the webinar today is going to last about 45 minutes, I think it should be. And we're going to have questions at the end, but obviously if you would like to ask questions, please feel free to put them in the chat as we go through, or just leave them till the end. Either or is absolutely fine. So today, presenting with myself, Head of Sales here at Creative, I have my colleague Matthew Ash, who is Sales Director, and Charlotte Jelly, the Senior Client Advisor at Wilson Partners. So the agenda today is obviously the welcomes, and I will cover off some introductions as well into the product and companies. Then we're going to go into 7 signs that you're outgrown Xero, followed by a live demonstration of Business Central by Matt, and which should cover these areas. I'm not going to read them out to you, but essentially we'll share the slides at the end as well. And then we're going to go into a customer example. So we'll cover off an example of an organization who have moved from Xero through to Business Central. And then we have the Wilson Partner Spotlight that Charlotte's going to cover off towards the end, and then a Q&A at the end. So, hold tight, here we go. So who are we at Creative? So Creative Computing, we are an organisation that's been going for well over 25 years. We have a wealth of experience, over 100 years of experience within the organisation. We work closely with well over about 20 or so partners, and we've delivered well over 500 software implementations, all in that Microsoft Dynamics space in that period. So given we are a Microsoft Dynamics partner for 25 years, so our goal is really as an implementation partner to support our customers through that transformation journey, essentially to unlock the power of your operational data. And with 500 odd implementations, we certainly are in good hands, or you're in good hands, should I say. And ultimately, we pride ourselves as an organisation on delivering those successful transformation projects and essentially building long-term relationships with our customers. So I think firstly, the big question would be to me is why Microsoft? For me, the honest answer starts with the ecosystem. You're not buying a simple tool here, you're buying a fully integrated stack. From the everyday productivity apps in Microsoft 365 through to ERP and CRM side in Microsoft Dynamics 365. And the data layer, Azure and Fabric, and the collaborative applications such as Teams. They all speak the same language, so it's a real joined up solution rather than bolt-ons. Excuse me, dry. On top of that, there's the AI capabilities, which we will come on to a bit later on, because every demo and every conversation nowadays we have is about AI, as I'm sure you're aware. And there really is, and there's a true scalability with Azure, which gives you a scalable, flexible cloud foundation that works not only with small teams, but as that business grows into larger enterprise solutions. So what is Business Central? So Business Central is essentially a finance solution, or ERP, if you want to call it, and it's used by 50,000 at least plus companies across the globe. and it's an end-to-end finance system. And it's the fastest growing ERP solution in the market today. And with all of the data in one place rather than in disparate systems, Business Central has the functional depth to support any organization as they experience growth, which hopefully you are. So when we talk about Business Central, I'd like to talk about kind of the functional depth of the product. So I've always used this slide. I like this visual because it shows Business Central in the center of that diagram, and then in the red section you'll see the kind of the seamless integration with the likes of Microsoft Word, Teams, Excel, providing real kind of productivity advantages, so that making those everyday tasks a lot simpler. So for example, you can analyze live financial data directly in Excel. You can generate Word documents with live Business Central data embedded within it, making those kind of management reports more live and dynamic. Or even collaborate with co-workers in Teams by sharing specific transactions with specific transactions for your customers. And then on top of that, if that isn't enough, you've then got the purple section above, which is all around the Power Platform designed to unlock further flexibility. So within those apps, you've got Power Automate and Power BI. You can build things like workflows and intuitive dashboards to support your business as they grow. Excuse me. So I did mention we talk about AI. So as I mentioned earlier, as these days, all presentations we talk about AI, and Microsoft is really forging the way here with Copilot now embedded directly in Business Central. At the simplest level, there's Copilot chat built straight in, so that at any stage you can ask about your company data in natural language. So ask it for a customer balance or a supplier balance, and it'll give you the answer straight away. Beyond that, there's already 2 agents embedded in Business Central. There's a sales order agent and the payables agent. And there's also a third on the way, the expenses agent, which is due for release later this year. So the AI world is, as we all know, is evolving fast, and Microsoft is really at that forefront of technology and making sure that it embraces it and it's embedding it into our everyday lives. So on to the next section. This is really around, say, the whole crux of this session today is around the 7 signs that potentially you might be outgrowing Xero, and these are the areas we're going to cover off. And I'm just going to touch on them before I then hand over to Matt, who's going to show us some of these areas in Business Central. So let's start where the reporting. So let's start with where reporting actually happens day to day. So most teams, to be honest with you, is in Excel. So Xero does a brilliant job of core accounting, but the moment people need to turn these numbers into real reports, they tend to actually push the information out to Excel, into a spreadsheet, and carry it on from there. And there's a few reasons for that keeps happening. The built-in reports are quite fixed, so they only go so far, and it can be awkward or quite difficult to slice the numbers like within the system. So like things like the departments, or maybe by site or by cost center. And because of that, the real analysis ends up taking place outside of the system altogether. So essentially Excel has quietly become the main reporting tool, not by design, but just more around necessity. So financial visibility. Now the challenge here is timely. Xero tends to be used for month-end and historical reporting rather than giving you a live picture. So you're often looking backwards rather than at what's happening right now. So as organizations grow, their owners, leaders start to expect a lot more from their reporting. They want up-to-date financial performance. They want faster answers to operational questions, and they want that visibility without having to wait for month end. When finance can only report after the event, decisions making becomes reactive instead of proactive, and that makes it difficult for organizations to grow, essentially. So relying on multiple add-ons to operate. The next thing here is really around how much Xero leans on add-ons. It's designed to be extended to third-party apps, which is great in principle. But what can happen over time is sometimes as the organizations grow, that list of add-ons starts to become slightly unmanageable. So what you typically end up with is with several different systems all performing core functions, a real dependency on data synchronization or clean data moving between the two applications or multiple applications. And as this steadily increases, there's a propensity to increase the amount of support and maintenance on those applications. So the more you grow, the more moving parts there are, should we say. So it's more risk and more cost to any organization as they expand. So organizations, they grow beyond single entities or locations. So this one tends to land as soon as the business expands, shall I say. Xero works really well with a single entity, but once you're once you're operating across multiple sites or several legal entities, the finance team starts to feel, I guess, the limits or the boundaries of doing that. What you really want to see is the organization as one business rather than separate ledgers to handle intercompany activities as part of the normal day-to-day operations, and to keep their processes and reporting consistency across multiple sites. In practice, this often forces consolidation to happen outside of Xero again, often in spreadsheets. And again, as the business grows, becomes more and more of a manual task. So as organizations scale, the light touch process side of the light process sides of Xero start to sort of creak a little bit. It's never really been designed or built to carry out kind of heavy finance workflows that shows once the volumes and complexities of any organization increase. So what you often see, for example, is purchase approvals being managed outside the system over email, or budgets being tracked in spreadsheets, and teams relying on those manual checks outside of a finance system to kind of control that maverick spend. Then the problem with all of this is the core business controls end up living outside of the system, meaning it's not all joined up again. Excuse me, my throat's drying out. Then we come into inventory and stock management. Inventory, I can never say that word. Inventory is always an area where things get a little bit tricky. Xero does provide you with stock functionality, and that's perfectly fine to begin with, but it can become quite restrictive as any operation grows. Before long, teams need to see stock by location, they need proper visibility of costs, and they need much tighter controls over movements and margins. So often what can happen is people opt for separate inventory systems or tools, and they fall back on sort of manual tracking. And either way, you end up with like a disconnect between essentially your operational data and your financial data. And then really the last one is the sort of the transactional volume. When the volumes just get too big. And as any organization grows, sort of finance teams are suddenly handling a lot more, and there's pressure to, or the pressure really starts to show in any team. You're dealing with higher volumes of invoices, bills, transactions, far more activity across customers and suppliers and journals, and a noticeable jump in kind of processes like reconciliation processes. And at this point, Xero often pushes people again to sort of find workarounds in the system or add-ons. And again, this kind of is rarely, I would say a sustainable option, should I say? So I think that's my seven. That's the 7 areas. I think at this point, what I'll do is I'll hand over to Matthew. Actually, Matthew, are you able to take control of the screen from here?
I certainly am. So I'm going to share my screen, and if you let me know that you can see it, that would be great.
Yes, that's it. Thanks, Matt.
Cool. So, Guy's first point, Excel has become the main reporting tool. And as much as we love Excel integration, because we have Excel integration in Business Central, as you'd expect, it's Microsoft, right? We still want to do a lot of our more dynamic analysis on the system. And we can do that in a number of ways. So firstly, let's just sort of go into our chart of accounts, because Guy talked about reporting is limited in structure and depth, the slicing of data by departments and sites and cost centers and things like that. And then he also talked about analysis often happening outside of the system. So let's look at our chart of accounts in Business Central. And one of the first things we'll see is that we have a tiered chart of accounts, and we also have something in the system called dimensions, and those dimensions are used to slice and dice this chart of accounts. So we're going to take a look here very quickly at the chart of accounts, but then we're going to move to see these dimensions, and these dimensions can also be tiered in exactly the same way as we saw our chart of accounts. So if you're an organization that looks at their the areas they sell to, or the industries that they sell to, or you're looking to analyze by department or cost center or whatever, we can have unlimited dimensions in our system. So we're talking about that's the whole sort of scalability of being able to slice and dice our data, and we can have unlimited values of those dimensions. And I've already shown you that we can have area, for example, which is a tiered dimension, and then we could have something like customer group, which is a very flat dimension here. And the reason that we popped out of the chart of accounts was because what I wanted to show you is that we can come into our chart of accounts and we could filter by those dimensions. So if we filter the amount of sales we've had by our customer group of our largest customers, we can see the numbers change, and we can save filters and things like that. So we've got the whole ability to be able to report at the chart of accounts level, but also at dimensional level. And really the outstanding thing to remember in this first section is the scalability of those dimensions and the dimension values that we can have associated with it. And because of that, I mentioned about being able to slice and dice in the system. And if we go into our list view here of general ledger entries for our sales of finished goods, you'll see a list of ledger entries that you would expect to see in a financial system. But we can go into pivot mode on any list of data in the system. So I've created a pivot table here, departments by customer group. A guy talked about Copilot. Copilot's prevalent in this system, and we could ask Copilot, if we weren't very good at pivot tables, to create that pivot table for us. Yes. So any list of data, this could be your customer list and you're looking at outstanding balances, or it could be your general ledger entry list as we've seen before. So we've got our departments going down the side and we've got our customers down there as well. So we're able to pivot our data directly in the system, no having to take it out of the system to be able to report. The next point that Guy talked about was financial visibility being delayed and retrospective. And you need up-to-date financial performance, faster answers to get operational and financial questions, and visibility without having to wait till month close. We have analysis views. Analysis views, I created a sales one, but you could have a cost one, you could have whatever. And what I can do is I can analyze on the fly by year, quarter, month, day, week, actual amounts, budgeted amounts, variance over different date filters and time periods. And what I'm going to do is show you initially that I could do some dynamic analysis of my GL accounts by period for my sales accounts. But I want to be able to analyze those dimensions that we've just seen, because I need to be able to make the decisions about our business. Are we going to carry on with that sales campaign in that region? Are we going to carry on with that product type to that region, or that product type with that salesperson? I want to be able to do dynamic analysis. So I should leave my GL accounts by my lines, and I will now put my areas across the top, because I want to see how we're performing across the globe. Great. And now I want to understand where and who is buying where. So I'm now going to show my customer groups. So now we're doing dimensions against dimensions. So we did GL by dimensions, GL by period. Now we're doing dimensions against dimensions. And I've got my customer groups across there, and I've got my regions and areas going across there. And I can filter that even further. I can say, well, let's see those numbers by my summer campaign, but I also want to see the performance of our different salespeople. So I've literally got 4 different dimensions being utilized here, and you'll see that we haven't had any success under those criteria, but that's how it should be, right? The truth comes out when we're able to matrix our data like this. We can also do filters and saved views in a number of areas. So again, I'm talking about, how can we have visibility of our data? We can do it a number of ways. I could do some filters here. So I could typically filter for balances that don't equal 0, and I could have that as a saved list against my customers. But also visibility of data without having to wait for month end. Continually, Copilot is generating a summary for me on the fly whenever I go into this customer to tell me about it, and I can show more details around that. So the customer has this balance, the profit percentage is this, while total sales for the fiscal year are this, and the average collection period for this customer is this amount of time. Our data is live all the time, and we're forever utilizing Copilot to allow us to keep up to date with that data, as I say, without having to wait to the end of the month to be able to do any reporting. Yes. Relying on multiple add-ons to operate your business. This was Guy's next point. And Business Central really is a full ERP system. So we've got the core finance that you'd expect, the chart of accounts, the cash flows, the fixed assets, things like that. But we also have for manufacturing distribution. We even have things like projects in here. Now, typically projects in systems tend to be something that are delivered by an add-on or extra piece of functionality, but no, we have it in here directly in the system. But talking about having a full system also means that whole Copilot piece as well. So if I come into here and I want to give this a prompt now, so let's just copy a prompt that I created earlier. I'm now asking the system to give me in Copilot, I've got a vendor on the line that's questioning an invoice from a year or so back. And what I'm trying to do is use Copilot to help me. I can carry on doing other tasks in the system, but actually Copilot will carry on looking while we do anything else in the system. And actually it's found me that data. Here's a posted purchase invoice for that vendor back in March 2024, and I can go straight away to that invoice, take a look at that invoice and see what answer any questions that that vendor may or may not have. The other beauty of having Copilot in our system as well is actually I can ask it to explain and guide me. So if I'm using this system for the first time and I've never created, let's say, a fixed asset, I could ask the system to tell me how I create fixed assets in the system, and it will give me the source, as you'd expect from AI tools these days, the source of where it got that information from. And most of the time it's Microsoft Learn when I'm asking how something is done in the system. I think the next point is crucial for many companies that are using the likes of Xero that want to go to something a bit more grown up. And that is that whole piece about growing beyond a single entity or growing beyond one location. And we have the concept in Business Central of business units. So Cronus, where I am at the moment, is the parent company, and I've got two business units that are consolidating up to Cronus, yes, and we map the accounts that we hold in those business units so that they go up to the appropriate accounts in the parent company, because they don't always share the same chart of accounts, right? So we can map them across as well. And I can come in and I can run the consolidation at any juncture, and I can also run, where are we? Here we go. Run my eliminations and trial balances with eliminations as well, whilst doing those that consolidation. But also multiple entities, multiple locations also require the likes of intercompany to be set up so that we can do intercompany between these entities that we've got, because we've got a parent company here, we've got two entities sitting underneath it. Those two entities may want to do intercompany. They may want to do intercompany with the main partner parent company as well. And so we have the whole concept of being able to set up intercompany partnerships and intercompany posting, intercompany journals within the realms of Business Central. Next, Guy spoke about key finance processes no longer fit inside Xero. So managing purchase approvals via email, tracking budgets in spreadsheets, and relying on manual checks really to control spend. And we'll start with these. Let's look at these. Work. Templates. So we have workflow templates in the system for all of the approvals that we want to be able to do. And we have approvals all over the system. So this is not just a system with purchase order approval or purchase invoice approval. We have also approvals on sales documents, on vendors being changed, vendors being approval, the bank approval, all sorts of areas in the system. We can set up workflow templates to demand an approval process take place. And you can also create your new ones. But as you can see, the workflow templates that are provided by Microsoft are pretty substantial, and they allow you to keep controls of your approvals throughout the business, and they can be approved on your phones, they can be approved on your emails, but also they can be approved in the system as well. And tracking budgets in spreadsheets, well, we have GL budgets in the system. We also have sales budgets and purchase budgets, but a GL budget typically can be set up, and that can also be set up utilizing those dimensions that we spoke about. So we can put a budget in the system, and we can look at, let's say, filtering on what those budgets looks like for certain customer groups, or if it was the purchase account, our cost accounts, you know, by department. But you'll see I'm able to filter against a one of our dimensions that we mentioned about earlier. The great thing is that we can also reforecast as well. So I can copy a budget, and when I copy a budget to create a new one, so let's say I was doing a budget in June to reflect the actuals that we've had for the first 6 months, but with the remaining budget entries that we've got for the last 6 months to give us a more accurate forecast of the year. When I copy this budget, I could take the GL entries from the first 6 months, the budget entries for the second 6 months. And if we were having a good year by looking at those GL entries that we've got in the system, if I then wanted to apply an adjustment factor to the budget entries that we've got in the second half a year, I can do that, making it really powerful to be able to reforecast on our GL budgets. The next point was around inventory and stock management and being able to hold stock by locations and cost visibility and tighter control over margins. So let's go into our item cards that we have in Business Central, and we'll go into one of our conference tables. And we're already able to see a pretty large amount of data really that we are able to hold against this. And there's some really key areas on this. How do we replenish this? How do we price it? How do we cost it? Where does those FIFO cost methods come from? Yes, where do those entries come from to make up this unit cost? We talked about replenishment, but also planning. Do we have reorder points, minimum order quantities? What are we going to hold? Lot tracking, serial tracking. There's a lot in here that makes that whole item and distribution and managing cost visibility and tighter control far better in Business Central. And if I go to here, let's go to items by location. So I can see here all of my items, and I can actually see what warehouses they're sat in. I can even show items that are in transit and things like that. Yes. So it's really powerful in terms of looking at those items locate by location. And I was looking at all items, but if I'm looking at this specific item here, I can look at this item availability by location again. So I can see what gross requirement I've got, scheduled receipts, planned receipts, inventory, projected balances. So that was by location for this item, but I could also do it by event. So what events have I got? I've got some sales orders in here, and I can really break down where those gross requirements or projected available balances are coming from. So that whole visibility piece that Guy was talking about is there for everyone to see against our item cards. Where's the stock? What have we got coming in? What's our commitments? What have we got coming in that we've purchased? I need a full 360 picture against those items. Yes. The last point that Guy spoke about was the transaction volumes in Xero getting too high. Business Central is truly scalable, and I think the best way for us to show that is for me to pass back to Guy.
Yeah, it's one you can't really show. It's one you can't really show in BC, isn't it? So let me just go back to the slides. Hopefully it comes out on the right slide. I've got it right. No, I've got it wrong. Let's just quickly dip to where we get to. Wait a sec. Right, there we go. Scalability. So we've touched on this before. So this slide is really about what growth feels like in practice, or what it should feel like instead. As a business scales, the same handful of things start to strain. You get more transactions, so the manual effort quickly creeps up. Month end takes a little bit longer every period, and the team's workload grows with it, because more volume usually ends up being in a finance team, more people. It's the same story across the bottom row here. As you add entities and locations, the data starts to fragment. Visibility slips, so the answers that used to be quick now take longer to pull together, and the overall complexity rises to the point where processes start to creak. So with Business Central, every one of these flips the other way. Automation keeps pace with the volume. The close process becomes faster and more predictable, as one unified view replaces all the fragmentation, and the system absorbs the complexity instead of handing it back to your finance team. And this isn't just a theory, because the platform generally built to scale. Around 99.8% says there of session times run on full resourced infrastructure. It comfortably handles over 2 billion API calls every working week, and every environment supports up to 3 terabytes of data. So the simple message is the right platform doesn't just handle growth, it makes growth easier. So I think that comes to the end of our session on the 7 signs. So now we come on to our customer example. Now, our intention was to have a customer here with us this morning, but sadly he's been unable to make it, best plans and all that. So instead, Matt is going to step in for him. Matt has worked closely with this customer, both from a pre-sales perspective and right through the implementation. So he knows and understands the business really well. So I have a bit of a Q&A around this. So the first question was, what industry are they in, and what did they use before, Matt?
Yes, a nice, quick, easy answer to this one. So they're in the TV and film industry. They do productions, they do animation, commercials. A really great company based in London, and they've been using Xero for a number of years.
And obvious question, next one. What challenges did they face with their original system, Xero?
Yeah, really good question. So typically, production companies do have a lot of entities, because they have to set up things like SPVs, right? So they typically have a number of entities that they need to do the accounting on, and Xero just could not in the end support that sort of multi-layered company approach. And it was also starting to become restrictive in terms of the analysis that they were going to be able to do with their data, right? So those were the main challenges, that sort of multi-company, multi-layer, having to be able to handle SPVs, and then sort of being able to analyze all of that.
Excellent. And how did Business Central solve these challenges?
Yeah, so Business Central really addressed the challenges by allowing the company to bring all of those entities into a single system, whilst also allowing them to structure them into those tiers, including the sort of SPVs. And it sort of enabled a sort of seamless roll ups into Business Central, those business units that we looked at earlier, supporting sort of consolidated reporting and those intercompany postings, because obviously with SPVs and production companies, there is a lot going back to and fro from those. And additionally, really, the flexibility of Business Central's dimensions functionality allows them to sort of get the analysis in multiple ways. So it provided a far more scalable, consistent reporting across the whole sort of organization. Yeah.
Awesome. And what has been the impact of moving to Business Central for this organization?
Great question. So really, it's allowed them to take advantage of the IP that we've created at Creative as well, that allows them to do their whole production accounting in there as well. But they've also been able to set up that crucial business hierarchy, keeping everything in one system. Reporting, consolidation, elimination processes have been much quicker. It's one set of data, one environment, and being able to utilize apps for industry specific sector functionality within that environment. Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you, Matt. I think that was all the questions we actually covered with our customer beforehand. So I think that brings us on to the spotlight session. Over to Charlotte, who's going to give us a spotlight on Wilson Partners.
Yeah, thanks, Guy.
Thank you.
Good morning. So I'm Charlotte from Wilson Partners. I work within our accounts and business services team, as Guy mentioned, here in Maidenhead, just down the road. Firstly, I did just want to thank the team at Creative for inviting us to be part of the session and putting it all together for us. So a big thank you to you guys.
You're welcome.
So yeah, a bit more about Wilson Partners. We mostly work with ambitious businesses providing accounting, tax, audit, advisory services, and anything in between, really. Most of our client base are owner-managed businesses and sort of growing organisations going through some sort of period of change or growth in their life cycle. And that's really why we're here today, because quite a lot of the conversations we have with business owners and their finance teams are throughout that journey of change, and we really sometimes they might have reached a point where the systems and processes they've got in place, and obviously where they've supported the processes that they've got have supported them to where they are today. They might not get them to where they want to be in the future, whether that's preparing for a sale, funding, acquiring other businesses, or as simple as they just want better visibility, better reporting, things like that. So I think it's been mentioned quite a lot, but when businesses are smaller, software like Xero can be a great solution. But as far as growing organizations and as the complexity grows, it just doesn't support as well as it should. So as Guy and Matt have mentioned earlier, this change could be down to more entities, more reporting requirements, more people, more transactions, or more pressure on finance teams to deliver. And at that point, the challenge isn't really the compliance side, it's the visibility of the data. So can stakeholders see what's happening across the business? Can they trust what they're getting out of the finance systems? Can they manage everything all in one place as well to save going in and out each software that they've got added into software like Xero? And like I say, coming away from spreadsheets where you're having to load up budgets and cross-reference to this entity and across to this software. So that's really where our relationship with Creative comes in as well. So they help businesses implement and optimize Business Central, and our role on top of that is helping businesses maximize the value of that investment that they've put in. So the more you put into a process, the more valuable the data and the information you're going to get out on the other side of it. So ways that we can kind of support through this process is it supporting through the software migration project. So that could be simply reviewing the data that's in the source as something as simple as Xero, redesigning any finance processes that needs pivoting as the change is going on, helping map out sort of the financial management reporting that needs to come out of it, whether that's requirements to any external stakeholders, banks, PE, things like that. We can definitely help with that. And just being able to not put too much pressure on the internal finance teams as well. So we understand they probably have a full-time job if there's an internal finance team and don't necessarily have the time carved out for a big project, such as a move to Business Central. So it's really just having someone external to lean on to when a project like this is taking place. So just to round off, really, ultimately, software is only part of the solution. The real value comes from having the right information available to make better decisions for a business. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it from me, Guy. Thank you.
That's perfect. That's perfect. And it's always a pleasure working with Wilson Partners on this project as well. So it just makes that transition from Xero to Business Central that much easier, because obviously you understand the financials, as it were. So not that we don't, but we're around the software. So
exactly.
It makes a great partnership.
And it's working together to get the best out for the client,
absolutely,
customer, whoever that might be.
Absolutely. Right. So I think we've come to Q&A. I think we are maybe 1 or 2 minutes over, but I think before we take any questions, or if there are any questions, there's just one other piece. I haven't got a slide for it because Matt and I discussed it just before the call. I think as we all like an offer, especially in this heat. But as I say, I think we wanted to put an offer together to say thank you for joining the call today. So what we'd like to say is anyone who's joined the call today, for the first 3 attendees that approach us and come and talk to us about a potential project, if we move forward with that project, what we're willing to do is offer the prospect, or offer yourselves 10% off the entire implementation fee. And that offer is valid for the next 3 months. So that will take us to the end of September. We'll send out copies of slides and recordings after this to all the attendees, and we'll make sure that offer is covered in that letter or email, should I say. So with that, there haven't been any questions in the chat. Has anyone got any questions they'd like to ask? Jabin's put a hand up. I don't know whether we can take off mute. I think it's is it possible to write your question in the chat, please? I don't think we can take you off mute. It's the setting of the... We'll give it a second. Oh, I can see someone's typing. The suspense.
Have you seen the question, Guy? Yeah.
Oh, here we are. How is Dynamics in terms of job management for engineering companies? Matt,
that's
you take that one?
Question. Yeah. So it typically, Gavin, it depends what sort of jobs the engineering companies are doing, but most of the engineering companies that I've presented to over the years think it's a really great fit. And the reason it's a great fit is because it's not just the sort of projects that you're going to do, but a lot of engineering revolves around manufacturing and having production orders and routing and things like that in place as well. So from that respect, Dynamics Business Central is a great fit for engineering companies, really because of the wide-ranging functionality that it delivers straight out of the box. depending on whether you're more project related or whether you're more manufacturing related. I hope that helps. Normally all in 365, yes. On saying that, I'm going to counter that slightly. On saying that, if you specifically are very manufacturing heavy and you need the sort of design functionality, then obviously you may need another system for that. Or there are some brilliant apps out there in the Business Central community for manufacturing and sort of engineering add-ons. So we just would need to understand exactly what you would need and why, and then we can come up with the right solution for you. But pretty much most of it as standard can be done in the system. Yes.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I think that's probably it for the questions. No one else is asking questions. So if that's the case, then I thank you all very much for attending today. I hope it hasn't been too warm for you. And well, we'll let you go and enjoy the rest of the day in the sunshine. So thank you very much, and thank you very much to Charlotte.
Just quickly though, before everyone goes, Jabin, just to say, Guy will reach out and try and get a call so we can understand how complex your requirements are, if that's okay with you. Cool.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, guys.
Good to see you.
Take care. Thank you all.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.